Since gaining consciousness at the 4th birthday party, humans have always sought to make new things and to make the world a greater place through innovations. But after many years of this innovating, we've taken a lot of things for granted and we walk by many things without even thinking about them. And one of these things that really contributes to our life, and especially public transit, is the turnstile. Whether it be for an Olympic sport, making a transit company money, or to keep people out, turnstiles have always served their functions in different ways. So to understand how we got here, let's take a look at the history. But wait, let's learn a little bit about British law. Picture this, it's the mid-18th century, and your task in life is to be a shepherd, tending to livestock and minding your own business. A law was just passed which could change the entire landscape of your career. The Right-of-Way Act, which allowed commoners to go through fields that were privately owned. Besides the obvious threat of theft, one of the main threats was losing all your livestock through a commoner opening a gate to get through your property. If this happened, you could lose your way of life in a single day. And the solution to this problem, in response to this law, is what created essentially the first ever type of turnstile. And here it was, the ideal remedy. A gate big enough to allow humans to pass through, but small enough to keep livestock within their pens, and some rotating arms just to keep the smaller types out. At the time, this just seemed like a small victory for British farmers regarding their own livestock, but little did they know that their little creation would spawn a revolution of data, analytics, and crowd management in an efficient manner for the future. The first example of this was seen by Clarence Saunders, the creator of the Piggly Wiggly store in Tennessee. Now, what was so significant about this Piggly Wiggly store? Well, let me tell you. Back then, corner stores were a bit different than they are today. When you entered, you couldn't just take products and bring them to the counter. Somebody had to retrieve them for you. But Piggly Wiggly broke the rules of corner stores and decided to go for the self-service concept at the time, where people went in, took things from the shelves, and then brought it to the checkout counter. Nowadays, self-service has been taken so far that we have concepts like Amazon Go, where it just skips the process entirely and uses sensors to scan your products, so you can just take your products and go. But anyways, back to Piggly Wiggly, this concept was very popular, and many people flocked to these Piggly Wiggly stores to be able to freely choose products to their own liking. To guide people down the entrances and exits properly, the turnstile concept was revived in this unique helicopter style, which we'll get to later. But basically, this concept is still used today for crowd control in stores. And if you go to many grocery stores across Europe and the rest of the world, entrance and exit gates still exist today. A main reason is not only for crowd control, but also so people do not go in and out of the wrong directions so that they avoid paying for their products. And speaking of payment, let us discuss payment in transit systems and the role that turnstiles play. Back then, there wasn't much transport philosophy or urban study, so the first underground railways were just treated as such, like railways. The payment systems were typically tickets, and you even had divided classes. For proof of payment, you had ticket inspectors, but buying tickets back then was a lot tougher than it is today, because at the time, you had a lot of private companies building subways. So you had some lines owned by one company, some lines owned by the other. That's why Harry Beck's London Underground map was such a significant invention. Prior to the underground map made by Harry Beck, a united system map was not really a concept ever thought of, as the private companies just made the maps of their own lines. And that was the exact purpose. They wanted you to buy tickets to their system. Payment got easier once transport systems got consolidated, but there was still a hunt to find a better payment system. Something that made manual labor far easier was something like the ticket chopper machine, where when you bought your ticket, it was chopped using this device. It allowed for an easier validation process. And then in the first half of the 20th century, turnstiles started to pop up. For example, this one. You could slide 5 cents in to enter, and it greatly reduced the amount of labor for validation checks, and it allowed for far less congestion, and thus a more efficient system. You can see the helicopter-like design, pretty similar to that Piggly Wiggly store earlier. There needed to be a different system though, other than the coins, as people couldn't just carry currencies around. Do you not have 5-cent coins? Introducing the token, a very simple remedy. You can just put in how much currency you like, and the exchange rate is 5 cents to the token, and you will be given how many tokens for the amount of money you put in. Now, this was quite a genius remedy, and was the primary payment system for various kinds of subways. Most subways had a token booth, as there wasn't ample enough automation yet for such technologies. And by everywhere, I mean everywhere. The history of tokens is quite interesting, and they were even in the far out parts of the USSR. By the way, if you are enjoying this video, make sure to join the Discord server and follow the Instagram. If you're liking this video, you'd love that. Don't worry about this, by the way, I'll heal from it. But the tokens were even in parts like as far north as boggy areas like St. Petersburg. Nestled in the tall mountains of the Caucasus, cities like Tbilisi or Baku, for example, and of course used in massive urban areas like Moscow. By the way, this is my collection, subtle flex. But then after the Soviet Union collapsed, and after everything became a lot more expensive post-collapse, they introduced plastic coins because they were of course cheaper to produce. So instead of your typical metal tokens, now you have plastic ones that you use, but they still had the same effectiveness. Just a cool collectible as well. But it was useful because back then I'd have to put in some money. And once tokens were introduced, I might not have the exact amount of money to put in, so I could just come up to the counter with my Stalin money, 25 let's say, and I get whatever token according to the city I live in. And that's kind of the history of tokens and how they work. Really cool. But besides turnstiles being switched from coins to tokens, the turnstile industry had bigger fish to fry. Fare evasion. We've all heard of it before, or have done it. It's the practice of course, not paying your fare. There are various methods. Let's take a look at them. One that you could see people in some cities do to avoid attention of staffers is something called tailgating or piggybacking. This is when you scan a card and your friend and you walk through just in time before the gate closes. Concealment rating, 8 out of 10. You could probably get away with this in a somewhat crowded station. Another method is the classic turnstile jump. This is of course where you jump the doors or the arms at the turnstile, thus resulting in you not having to pay a fare and getting a free ride. The concealment rating is a 3 out of 10. It's very noticeable and you could get caught. I'm starting to run out of methods here, but another one could be crawling under the turnstile arms or gates. This is where you get on your belly and of course army crawl, thus avoiding the doors and getting a free ride. And last but not least, the most popular method, bringing a toolbox to the metro station, unscrewing the turnstile from the ground, discarding of the turnstile and its technologies, and then walk through an empty space. 10 out of 10, just wear a yellow vest. Quick legal disclaimer, do not evade fares, it is illegal and you'll get in trouble. Thank you. Anyways, tokens were improved on with more convenient and more slick and cool computerized technologies in the 90s and mostly early 2000s. For example, Paris and Rome's cards were introduced in 99 and 2001, London's Oyster in 2003, and New York City's MetroCard in 1993. This allowed people to go up to a machine in the station, insert whatever amount of money they pleased along with the card fee, and then get that exact money on their card. The cards are operated by either swiping or tapping, and it allows for a sort of contactless system with any of the public transport infrastructure, making it more sanitary as well. These cards also allowed for a sort of branding, with the Oyster and Metro cards of London and New York coming out with special editions, which encouraged public transport ridership and created some community engagement. Since then, there have been various other technologies introduced after that guy created the funny hand computer. Now it's common to be able to pay with bank cards, which allows you to just bypass interaction with the transit system's payment method and use your own. And you can also pay using a transit system's app or using your card on your phone. So you can just pull up the picture of your card on your phone and it'll scan it. And now payment methods are being researched where if you just cross a sensor, it sucks the money right out of your phone and you can just seamlessly go in and out of the transit system. Aside from that other new generation technology, there is also biometric payment. This is a method currently being employed to some extent and being tested where you look at a face cam and then you pay based on your biometric data, and then you just keep going. Are there any security concerns with the sensor-based payment and the biometric payment? Discuss that in the comments below. I read all the comments, and even if I can't respond, I'll like them and heart them just so you know that I saw it. But wow, those payment systems are all so advanced and so cool. What has the turnstile industry done to change their approach? Well, let's take a look at the different kinds of turnstiles and see how they've adapted. Let's start with a classic, the tripod turnstile. It rotates when scanned and consists of 3 arms, thus giving it that tripod name. It's quite the classic turnstile, has been used for a long time, and it's pretty reliable and used in many big systems, such as the New York City subway. The way that you could prevent fare evasion on tripod turnstiles is a method called shelving, where the gap has a shelf underneath it to avoid people squeezing through the gap. If the gap is left big enough without shelving, people could just slide through there. What if I don't want to deal with fare evaders at all? Well, say hello to my little friend, the full-height turnstile. The design is straightforward with its intentions. Covered with bars from ceiling to floor, you can't get over it, you can't go under it, you have to go through it. This is typically used at higher risk areas, either areas with high crime or places with high susceptibility to terrorist attacks. But in most cases, it's used in places where fare evasion could be common. The next turnstile is one popular with various networks for its ease of use and aesthetics. That is the swing gate turnstile. The swing gate turnstile is great for its variability and modularity, as the doors can be different heights, they can have different widths, allowing for wheelchair access, and they can be made of different materials if you're looking for some kind of aesthetic. You can have clear plastic doors, solid plastic doors, metal doors, anything goes. The design is also pretty straightforward for preventing fare evasion, as you can have the doors get pretty close to the floor, and then also go up pretty high, waist, chest, or even face high. And there are no holes anywhere like with the tripod turnstile. It's one solid object. These kinds of turnstiles are also used in various kinds of modern facilities and transit stations, but we'll talk about that later. Next up isn't a solution constantly used in a modern use case scenario, but still widely used to an extent. That is the retractable turnstile, typically consisting of doors that of course retract into the turnstile, for example wing gates or standard gates. They take up more space than the gate turnstiles, but the doors can retract slightly faster than their counterparts. Honorable mentions go out to tripod turnstile trying to be hip with the kids by looking modern, the double tripod turnstile, menace tripod turnstile with metal detection, and of course the various metro networks that trust you to scan your card by yourself and don't use turnstiles at all. But what if I told you that there was a cool turnstile, a new kid on the block, cyberpunk epic, futuristic epic cyberpunk turnstile? That is what the optical turnstile is, a new type of fashion that was applied to turnstiles in the 2000s. Here's how it works. Are passengers intimidated by the grungy-looking full-height turnstiles? Replace the metal with glass. Do you not like the plastic that's not translucent and the metal that doesn't even look good? Try glass and sensors and lasers that allow you to get through quicker. Is the tripod turnstile not futuristic core enough? How about use drop arm turnstiles? And you can scan all kinds of personal payment info with them. And that's basically turnstile fashion summed up. But on top of that, all kinds of new turnstiles work with transport networks to count ridership, and they work integrated into the various databases that help make our transport networks more efficient. And all this technology and investment just works for so much, doing so many things. Oh. TAPTOGO, you can take me tap to go. TAPTOGO, please don't jump me like that though.